Okay, folks, I'm glad you've come back. It's taken me a little time to put together this lesson using my different mediums, particularly my oil bars, my oil pastels with acrylics, and then different glazes and varnishes on the different surfaces that I brought up in my previous video. So what I've done here, and just to show you, before we start, I think I mentioned to you getting possibly a wooden panel. Maybe some of you have gotten a wooden panel or not, and you can get these from any art supply store or order them online anywhere. I get them from Dick Blick, that's the retail store, or I get them from Jerry's Artorama, which is a great online store. And what I did with the wood piece, first of all, is I gesso it because I want to hide and I don't want my paint sinking into the actual pores of the wood. So I will gesso it, and I use a Liquitex acrylic gesso that you see right here. And I actually put the gesso on not with a brush. I used one of those coffee cup sleeves, and I use the corrugated side, and I just pour that gesso here on the wood, and I rubbed it in like this. You can also do that on the canvas. You can do that on the paper. I'm an artist that really likes a lot of texture on my surface because that texture acts like a magnet and grabs all kinds of pigmentation of whatever you're using. If it's oil bar, oil pastel, dust pastel, oil paint, acrylic paint, anything in the world you use, texture is going to grab and allow you to build greater layers with depth off the surface of whatever surface you're using. And that texture also can be sealed at layers that you want to seal it. If you're working all in acrylic, you could use an acrylic matte varnish, or you could use a gel medium, an acrylic gel medium, or if you're using, let's see, just purely oil bar and say an oil paint or oil pastel, you want to use a oil pastel fixative, which is called, it's produced by Sennelier, and I'll have all these links in this copy caption underneath this video, and you all please ask me all the questions you have. So the other thing I'll do, even on a canvas and sometimes on a paper, after I gesso that surface, I'll use a coarse sandpaper, which I have here, and I will go over that whole surface. I will try to explore it. And I will add another layer of gesso to this. You can use a fine sandpaper. Everything that I'm showing you here today is just a suggestion. You can deviate however you want to create your own personal style. Now, one other thing I have going here is I want to show you, this is the pack of canvases. So these are 12 by 12, as I mentioned before in the previous video. These will come packed as 5 in here, and this is a 9-ounce. This is more of a premier canvas surface, and that's what I want. And it's been gessoed 3 times. So that's been already primed, and I'll just cut this open so you can see what I have. So there we go. So this is quite sealed up nicely. This is a nice surface to work on, and we're gonna move on in the exercise, and I'm going to show you how I prep these base layers to create my base layer coloring and toning and create just the beginning of the architecture of how I'm going to create my abstracts. So that being said, here is also the acrylic pad of paper I mentioned. This I cut out of a huge sheet, but these acrylic pads are made by Strathmore, and these take a great beating, and they take a wealth of mixed media applied to the surface. Now this is actually a 6x6 of that acrylic pad, but it goes up to I have one, I think it's 18 by 24 inches, so you can get any size you like. And just to deviate a little bit from my lesson, is these are quick sketches that I would do in color pencil or mixed media or a nice soft black pencil. So you can see how these develop, and I get some of my ideas from my paintings from these. But this surface is very tough, so you could work on that with color pastel for days, and the surface of the paper won't gloss over, so it'll still maintain its tooth and ability to create texture. So once again, I'm back there at the texture thing, which I like. Texture works for me if I'm using a color pencil, a watercolor, any kind of paint medium, any kind of pastel medium. I'm looking for texture, and you can do the same thing in your paperwork or canvas work. So there you go. You can see a little bit more of my work, but these are warm-up sketches. I should be doing more of them, and I don't do enough. You know, you get distracted. So that gives you a bit of a teaser of what I'm doing. And then what I'm doing here on this piece is I've laid down totally just black, thick oil pastel. And I scribe into that oil pastel with one of these metal scribers. So I create this like a pseudo wax board where you can cut into it. And that's basically what that is, a pseudo wax board. And I use one of these metal scribers. You can use anything sharp, you can use any kind of tool. So that's another trick. But let's get back to the lesson. So what I'm going to do is show you next how I prep all my surfaces. And you know, I have the acrylic paper surface, I have the canvas surface, and you all might have these ready yourself. And then I have the wood board surface. There we go. And let's move on. Okay, folks, we're gonna get on to the next step of how I prep my surfaces, the very beginning of all my works, and I tend not to like white surfaces, so I need, you know, a sense of coloring and just the beginning phases of some kind of direction. So that's how I want to proceed now. And I have these little paint cups, and I'm only going to use blue, red, a yellow, a white, and a black to create my toning. So my first toning will be with the acrylic paints, and these are the acrylic paints that I use. They're produced by Lucas. It's a German company. They're a little bit better than the student academic brands, and I get this from Jerry's Armen, and the pigmentation in these is great, and they are the colors that you've seen me use on a lot of my base pieces that I've shown in the last few videos. Let me show you one of those again, and this is what I'm talking about. So I get a nice rich toning of color here, as you see. And this one I'm starting to cut in with my oil pastel. So the goal is we're going to get up to this level from just a white base that I have here. So here we go. What I do with anytime I work with canvas, I like to make that surface very tight. So I'll flip it over and I'll sprinkle it with water. I don't have my atomizer or spray bottle here, but all I need to do is throw water on the back of this, and this will help tighten it up like a drum. And I like my surface to be a little firmer. So this is a very easy trick. And I rub that water in a little bit, get it all around, and you can already see it's tightening up. So I'll put that back over here, and I will put in these little containers my paint. And I don't use a lot of paint. I don't need a lot because I'm just toning. And I don't mix at this point. I'm going to have a different surface to mix on. There we go. Let me get a white. And let me get a black. Okay. All I'll do here is just mix these up as I like. I don't really have an idea of what type of coloring I want to use, but I will mix it up right in front of your eyes a little bit. And I use coarse old brushes because, once again, I still want to build texture. These brushes here are coarse, dried, a little bit old, and that's exactly what I want. Here's another old brush, and the old brushes suit me well. Okay, I have my paints poured in these little buckets, and I'm going to start to work out some kind of color. I have no idea, and I don't really want to dilute these with water, but I'll just make the brush a little damp. And I'll start playing in here. I have the red, but I'll mix in a different little tray that I have right here. So this is how I'll mix the color. So I'll put that red in here, and I'll hit it with a little water, and I'm going to grab some yellow, and let's see what I have. Never be afraid of those first marks. So there's no science here. All of you have done this, but this is to show you how I do it. Now I'll use this other brush, and I'll just go in here and get some blue, and I diluted that a little more, and I'll just keep working this surface. And I'll go in here with my black. There we go. I'll grab some white. And maybe I could get a hint of some shape. Something happening. And this is really all I do, and I'll sit with this a couple days just to see what I've got. So that brush, I just want to wipe out some color, and then come in here So there we go. And then I'll take a rag. A rag is always important to me. A rag is as good as a brush in my book. And I'll just let that set up a little bit. And I'll get in here with the rag, because I want these gentle pastel colors. This is what I'm really looking for. I work up off of these colors, and I don't want to do too much intermixing in here. I can leave that there. There we go. And I want to take away more color. So if I want to do that, I'll use a paper rag. So I'll just go in here, and you can see I'm almost getting it down to the surface. I'm starting to see white canvas in here, and that's all I want. So there, and then I can add water and pull up color once I add the water. So I'll add, you know, I want to pull up some color in here where the white is, where the black is. See that? And then I want to go in here with the paper towel and pull out a little more, and then I can go in here with my fingers, start to get something else. And don't be afraid to use your fingers in any configuration, anywhere, any place. And then let me take some out of here. Okay, so oh, and I have a little red right here. Where can I use that red? Okay. Okay, so that's about all I want to do, and I want to get that red smudged a little bit, smudge this out, shows a little motion. There. So the next thing I do once I have this much done to it is I might introduce some lines, and those lines, because this is acrylic paint, how I introduce marks on this layer, it should be done with probably a charcoal or a pencil type of medium, because anything that's oil based here I will not be able to paint on top of. So this lower layer I totally want to be acrylic paint, and I'm gonna work on this as much as I want till I get that bone dry and I have the underlying marks I want, and then I can start applying my oil based mediums on top of here. And of course we'll show you that once we proceed down the additional steps. Now this is one of these large pencils I use. I buy the whole set of multiple colors. It's called Stabilo, and I hope you can see that. There I am, I'm in the lens, and this is a black. So I'll create some of my design lines with these fatter pencil implements. So you can see right here, and this I can work on it on top with more acrylic, so it'll adhere to this because this is just a pencil type of medium. So there we go, and you'll see how my general marks start to show up, and this will inform me about a lot how I want to proceed with this piece. And this is really how I start all my pieces. It's very basic. So let me play in here a little bit. Okay, and then I have another marker type here. Let me find that marker. This is charcoal. So the charcoal will blend, and these will blend with paints and my other mediums on top. So I can just come in here with the charcoal, and you can see how it blends in there, and it doesn't really bother me. So I'm not at a phase here where I want to love anything. I'm just laying down marks to give me cues where to begin, where to start from, and where to grow out of. And I will show you the process with these as I proceed. So I think this is enough for this, and this needs to get pretty much bone dry for me to go to the next phase. And that's as quick as it takes me to get a surface covered. And once again, I'd like to get most of the surface, 70% of it or more, covered in some type of tone or coloration. So there you see it, and you can maybe like more white in your piece, so that's fine. So leave more white. And this, just to show you an example, this is how another base piece was created. And you can see this piece was actually done in all oil. This was not acrylic paint, so this was more an oil-based, a water-based oil paint that I use from Winsor Newton. So let me show you that. This is that paint that I use. It's called Winsor Newton's Artist Water Mixable Oil Color. I think they use some type of vegetable oil in here. So this is how I created this base. So this base will only allow me to work on different types of oil medium on top of this. You cannot work on acrylic medium over the oil base, because over the years it'll chip or flake off because they just don't adhere to one another. Okay? So this sucker is done, and I'm going to move on to the next one. The next one is my acrylic paper, and this is very heavy stock, and it has a texture built onto the paper. And this I'm not going to add paint to create the patina. This one I'm going to add my oil bars to, or oil pastels. So my oil pastels are pretty fat, the ones I use. These are by Sennelier. I also use RF, and I'll show you one of those RF tubes. So these I'll cover just like this. And here's a different color. Let me get this one out. And this is a RF pigment oil bar, as you can see right there. Okay, and then I will come in here with some other coloring. And then I want to shock this a little bit with some warm color down in here. So basically I am just toning the paper. But what I'll do now is I'll come in with my China markers. And these are wax based and grease based. This is one of my China markers that I use. I hope you can see that right there. And this will create unique lines that will blend with the oil bar. And here we go. And what I'll do here is get the rag again, and what I want is my Gamsol. And where is my can of Gamsol? See, I got so prepared I can't find the Gamsol. Here it is. So this is the Gamsol, which helps thin all these little oil mediums, the oil pastel and the oil bars. So I'm going to put some of this on a rag. Here's the rag. And what I like about this process is this will saturate the paper and really tone the paper nicely. And it kind of absorbs in, and it doesn't ruin the paper, because once you have this down, you can at different stages glaze over it with matte varnishes and different types of oil pastel. So here's a different oil pastel, and what I'll do here is rub this in now with my fingers. I have my gloves on, and there we go. So this is the look I try to get at this phase. Just toning. And this rag has the Gamsol on it, helps me burnish this into the paper. Now, I'm not going to color the wooden board. The wooden board is a coloring no different if you want to start with acrylic or an oil base. But what I want to show you is some of these samples here of the oil base. This is oil base, and I'm using different markers which are compatible with the oil base. Here's another oil base, and I'm working with oil pastel on top. This one I created some kind of pseudo landscape of a seascape and mountains. I was just playing because, you know, I don't do a lot of representational landscape work, but I was just trying to experiment to see if I could abstract it. And then this is a very beginning base layer of my oil, water-based oil paint in oil bars, and I'll work up off of this. So that's another base layer, and this is a layer that's proceeded much further along than just the base layer. So you get to see how I started to apply on top of these raw colors that you see here. I'm starting to apply my specific design work. And what I want to do is something that I have never done, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I keep a sketchbook for a certain reason. And the reason being is I need ideas. I need abstract ideas. So, for instance, you see this sketchbook, and I want to pull imagery out of here. And what I do to simplify it is I cut this little window. And you can see how this window gives me unique examples of simplifying my work and helping me decide which way to go. So let me show you another treatment. So here's another version of a treatment I like right in there. So I'm simplifying design, and I'm going to show you here how that I might take this and start to, start to implement it in this piece right here that I just treated. So here, I'm going to put that right there and show you how I work my abstract. So I'm going to leave this shape here and I'm going to work in. So you kind of see I'm coming in a pattern that mimics this, and I can deviate from it. There we go. And then I have this little curve in here. And then I have more stuff going on up here. So this is a real first for me, and I like this because I can get to actually my color stuff a lot quicker. And then let's see. So you can see what I'm pulling from here. It's hard to get all this in the lens. But over here I have another piece. There. There we go. So if you look at this little area right here and how there's the area and how I took it to apply it to this piece. And this will be the foundation of a new abstract right here. So that's how keeping a sketchbook is very important, and you can grow from that and apply it to your work. Now, I want to show you another thing here and how I take pieces from my bigger works. So here is a bigger work that you saw from the last video I posted, and here's another window that I'm able to move around. And now this comes across as a head, shaped as a head, an abstract formation. But when I put this window on here, I can get to a pure abstract. So this is very unique in helping you push your work out of boundaries you might be stuck in. So you can see how this works. This is really unique. And I love that. So the next phase I will show you right now. The last thing though, I just wanted to repeat and show you all, which I think was one of the best learning tricks in this episode, is this cutout window that I showed you, and I just want to repeat it again to make sure you all understand the concept of this cutout window. So this cutout window helps me simplify my design and architecture of my abstracts, as you can see here, and how it creates more power when you're eliminating a lot of extraneous marking, which we all tend to do, and it's very hard to simplify when you're working, so I have to see it using the aid of a tool kind of to cheat on. So let me show you here on this bottom one. So here's one of this version. So you can see just the motion and energy, how it changes when you constantly simplify. And for instance, here's the one that's a little more worked up. And you can see when I simplify here. And once again, I'm simplifying, constantly simplifying to get a stronger statement. And that's I hope the lesson you take away, one of the powerful ones, as well as learning the system, which is quite easy, of how to cover a blank surface. But this one forces your eye to be a little more discerning in terms of your abstract design. Let me show you again over here. So here you all remember maybe this abstract floral I did. If I apply this window treatment here, look at the difference I get. And this, something like this space, this place right here, would be successful on its own as a bigger abstract. And then let's go walk around the studio and try a bigger panel window. And here's my abstract that's purely, right now, purely acrylic and just the hints of oil pastel. And you can see how it's changing just a total feel of this by using this window as a cheating trick. But man, I love it. And then there's enough here that this, I could scale this up to make a 6 by 9 foot canvas. So that's how, you always want to be thinking about your work. Where can it go? What's the next step? And if I take this over here to one of the monster pieces I have, this is a 4.5 foot by 5.5, 6 foot. And this one I'm happy with, but if I wanted to take something from here, I love this area. There it is, right there. That area is really nice to blow up as a bigger piece. You can see it. And then if I move this, I can move right across my work. And it becomes like a show. Maybe I can cut all these in squares or rectangles. Just cut this piece up, sell the individual pieces. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But here's a unique, simplified piece. Oops, let me get you in the lens. Here's an area that's real simple. And I couldn't, when you're working, you're not really seeing this level of simplicity. Let me get you up here. Let me move back. There. That's a unique area. So there you go, folks. You have a lot of paint on the brush, meat on the bone, as they say, to start to proceed. And I will show you and try to get another lesson up in another week or so of how these pieces, base pieces, will evolve up to becoming more substantial and more intricate through the different mediums that we use today. And then we'll bring them up to a third lesson to show you how I preserve and glaze layers. And then we'll go to a final, maybe fourth lesson, where I'll talk about finessing these to be highly unique individual pieces to you. And, see if there's another lesson after that. But I hope that I'm tying together successfully, that you understand all my mixed media pieces based on oil bars, oil pastels, acrylic paint, and layers of glazing and varnishing. And if you have any questions, once again, please write them in the captions, and I pride myself on answering all your questions. Okay, you all have a great week, and keep working. Bye-bye.